The stars shone cold and distant as the human fleet drifted in formation, their silver hulls reflecting the faint light of a nearby nebula. Commander Alex Rains stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, the lead ship of the squadron, his hands resting lightly on the railing. His eyes scanned the view screen, watching the alien fleet grow larger with every passing moment. The enemy cruisers were sleek, black, and merciless, their weapons bristling in ways that made the human engineers shiver. This was not a fight the humans were supposed to win. Everyone knew it, yet here they were, staring down impossible odds. "Commander," Lieutenant Jara spoke quietly, her voice tight with tension. "Scanners show multiple energy signatures. They're converging on us. The cruisers are almost within firing range." Rains nodded, his expression calm, betraying none of the nerves he felt. Calmness was part of leadership, and in this moment, he needed every officer on the bridge to trust him completely. "Maintain formation," he said. "Do not fire unless I give the order. Watch their movements. We need to learn how they fight before we respond." Jara glanced at him, hesitant. "Sir, with all due respect, we're sitting ducks out here. Our weapons won't last long against them." Rains's gaze didn't waver from the view screen. "Then let's hope we're not meant to last long, Lieutenant. Sometimes survival isn't about weapons. Sometimes it's about being smarter than the enemy." A ripple of murmurs spread through the bridge. Soldiers and engineers alike exchanged uncertain looks. Humans were brave, yes, but even bravery could not save them from a fleet vastly superior in firepower. Then, from the edge of the formation, a new ship appeared. It was unlike any vessel anyone had ever seen. Sleek, silver, almost organic in shape, it moved as though it were alive. There were no visible cannons, no missile bays, no turrets, just smooth curves and soft, glowing lines running along its hull. The bridge went silent. No one spoke for a few moments, as if the crew were waiting for the ship to explode on contact. "Is that—" Jara began, but she didn't finish. Rains's eyes narrowed. "That," he said, voice steady, "is our new ship. That is the Vanguard." A junior officer, barely out of training, leaned forward. "Sir, it's unarmed. There's nothing on it. Why send it into battle?" Rains allowed himself a small, dry smile. "Because it doesn't need to be armed. Trust me." On the enemy side, the alien fleet commander, a tall creature with a translucent exoskeleton and glowing red eyes, noticed the human ship immediately. Its head tilted, a gesture that seemed almost like amusement. "An unarmed human ship?" It hissed in its own language, which translators rendered as something close to mockery. "This will be amusing." As the alien cruisers adjusted their formations, preparing to attack, Rains gave a quiet order. "Vanguard, move forward." The ship responded instantly, gliding gracefully into the lead of the human formation. Every eye on the bridge followed its movements. It was almost hypnotic, the way it cut through space with no visible propulsion, no noise, no sparks, nothing but fluid motion. It was beautiful, almost alive. The aliens opened fire. Beams of green energy shot toward the Vanguard with lethal intent. Every officer and crew member on the Dauntless braced for the impact, expecting a massive explosion, but it didn't come. The beams struck the ship, and instead of tearing it apart, they seemed to pass through it, absorbed and redirected in ways that made no sense. The human crew gasped. Even the scientists aboard had never seen anything like this. "Commander," Jara said, voice barely audible, it's not being damaged." Rains remained calm, though his mind raced. He had trained for this moment. Years of experiments, years of theory and risk, all boiled down to this. The Vanguard wasn't like any other ship. It was designed to use energy as its weapon, to turn the enemy's strength against them. What was happening now was exactly what he had hoped for, though the uncertainty still gnawed at him. The alien commander's red eyes narrowed. It barked commands to its fleet, and more energy beams were fired. Again, every shot that hit the Vanguard simply vanished, leaving no mark. The aliens were confused. Their weapons were supposed to destroy anything in their path, and yet this human ship simply ignored their might. Rains leaned back slightly, allowing himself a brief moment to enjoy the sight. The enemy was panicking. He could almost hear the confusion in their communications, broken fragments of speech and digital noise. The human crew felt a strange surge of hope, something they hadn't felt in weeks. "Sir," Jara said, her voice firmer now, "what is it doing?" Rains's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "It's observing, learning, waiting for the right moment." As the seconds stretched, the Vanguard moved closer to the lead cruiser, its hull glowing faintly now, lines of light rippling along its surface. The alien ship fired again, this time with more aggression, but the energy simply flowed around the human vessel, twisting and bending as if the ship itself were alive and thinking. "Everyone," Rains said calmly, "watch carefully. What happens next will decide this battle." A hush fell over the human fleet. Even the youngest officers understood that something unprecedented was about to occur. And then, without warning, the Vanguard shifted. The glow along its hull intensified, bathing the bridge in a soft, almost blinding light. The energy around it seemed to pulse, bending space itself in strange, subtle waves. The alien fleet's lead cruiser shuddered. Something was happening inside its hull. Tiny cracks appeared along its surface, spreading rapidly. The alien commander let out a sound that could almost be called fear. "Commander," Jara whispered, It's attacking without weapons. How is this possible?" Rains's eyes never left the view screen. "It's not attacking with weapons, it is the weapon. Watch carefully. Human ingenuity works in ways the enemy cannot predict." The bridge shook slightly as the human fleet felt a ripple through space itself. The alien cruiser's hull fractured from the inside, tiny explosions marking the weakening of its energy core. The Vanguard moved closer still, seemingly feeding on the energy around it, absorbing what the aliens fired and converting it into a force they could not defend against. The human crew leaned forward, unable to believe their eyes. The alien fleet had been certain of victory, confident that humans would crumble before their might. And yet here was a single, unarmed ship, changing the entire battle with nothing but its presence and clever design. The aliens were panicking. Their formation broke as smaller ships tried to retreat while the flagship began to crack further. Rains gave another quiet order. "Maintain position, observe. Do not engage directly yet." Even as they watched, the alien cruiser emitted a low, groaning sound. The energy within it reached a critical point. The hull fractured further, lights flickering as systems failed. Then, with a sound that was more felt than heard, the cruiser exploded, sending a shockwave across the battlefield. Smaller alien vessels scattered, trying to avoid the fallout. The human fleet cheered silently. No one had expected such a victory, at least not so quickly. Rains allowed himself a brief smile, though his mind was already moving to the next step. This battle was only the beginning. The Vanguard had proven what human ingenuity could achieve, but the aliens would not forget this. "Prepare for pursuit," Rains said, voice calm but commanding. "The fleet will regroup, and they will come back stronger. But we now know what humans can do when we refuse to give up." The crew worked quickly, stabilizing their formations and scanning for any remaining threats. The Vanguard moved gracefully back into formation, its glow fading as if nothing had happened. To the rest of the human fleet, it looked almost like a miracle. In that moment, Rains reflected on what had happened. The aliens had underestimated humanity. They had assumed that weapons alone determined strength. They had not considered creativity, courage, and intelligence, the things that made humans different. And now, humanity had shown its true power. As the stars stretched endlessly ahead, Rains felt a strange mixture of pride and caution. The battle was won, yes, but the war was far from over. He knew that the aliens would adapt, that they would learn, and that humans would need to be ready. Yet for the first time in a long while, hope burned bright across the fleet. The Vanguard had led the way, showing the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. It had been unarmed, yet it had destroyed a cruiser in seconds, and in doing so, it had reminded everyone on the human fleet what made them truly dangerous. Humans did not fight with brute force alone. Humans fought with their minds, with their courage, and with their unyielding will to survive. And that was a weapon no alien fleet could ever fully understand. The battle had ended, but the story of humanity's ingenuity and the mysterious Vanguard was only beginning. The shockwave of the destroyed cruiser still rippled faintly through the void as the human fleet regrouped. Commander Alex Rains stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, his hands folded behind his back, eyes fixed on the distant stars. The Vanguard glided silently at the forefront, its hull faintly glowing, almost as if it were breathing. The human crew whispered among themselves, excitement and fear intermingling in their voices. That single unarmed ship had turned the tide of the battle, but Rains knew this victory was only temporary. "Sir," Lieutenant Jara said, moving to his side, "our scans show the remaining alien vessels retreating, but they're reorganizing fast. They'll be back with reinforcements." Rains nodded slowly. "I know, and next time they won't underestimate us." His voice was calm, but the tension in the bridge was palpable. The aliens were intelligent, and intelligence made them dangerous. The Vanguard's success was a warning now, a warning the enemy would remember. The alien fleet was not retreating blindly. From their broken formation, the alien commander, its translucent exoskeleton shimmering with irritation, gave rapid commands. Its remaining ships began to rearrange, forming a defensive circle around their flagship's remnants. The humans could detect energy fields building up, a shield-like mechanism designed to prevent the same kind of catastrophic destruction that had befallen the lead cruiser. Rains studied the display. "They've learned fast," he said quietly. "We need a new approach. The Vanguard alone can't win this fight if they adapt." A young engineer at the console looked up, eyes wide. "Sir, the Vanguard can modify its energy absorption. It can convert incoming attacks into other forms of power. Maybe we can use that against them again." Rains considered this. It was true. The ship was capable of more than anyone had realized. Its technology was experimental, a fusion of human ingenuity and theoretical physics that bent the known laws of energy. But pushing it too far was dangerous. One miscalculation could destroy the ship from the inside. Still, the risk was necessary. "Prepare the Vanguard," he said. "We're going to show them that humans don't retreat. We adapt." The ship responded instantly, its glow intensifying slightly as if acknowledging the order. Rains's crew exchanged looks of awe. There was something about the Vanguard that inspired confidence, a silent promise that no matter how powerful the enemy seemed, humanity could find a way. Across the battlefield, the alien fleet advanced again. This time, their tactics were different. Smaller ships darted forward, attempting to flank the human formation. Energy pulses streaked across space, faster and more precise than before. The humans fired their weapons, but it was clear that brute force alone would not win this fight. "Focus on coordination," Rains commanded. "Let the Vanguard lead. We follow its lead, not the enemy's movements." As the Vanguard glided ahead, it began absorbing the alien energy attacks again. The beams of green light struck its hull and bent around it, diverted into the void. But this time, the absorbed energy did not simply vanish. Instead, the Vanguard redirected it, creating small bursts of focused force that tore through the outer hulls of the alien ships without harming the human fleet. The aliens were confused and furious. Their attacks, which had once seemed unstoppable, were now feeding the humans' power. From the bridge of the Dauntless, Rains watched as the first enemy ship of the second wave exploded, its destruction caused not by missiles or cannons, but by the human ship's ability to manipulate energy itself. "Sir, this is incredible," Jara whispered, almost unable to believe what she was seeing. "The Vanguard! It's turning their own strength against them." Rains's expression was steady, but inside, he felt a surge of pride. This was what humanity could achieve when it refused to be limited by conventional thinking. Every human on the bridge felt the same spark of hope, a realization that even against an overwhelming enemy, they had an advantage that could not be measured in firepower alone. The alien commander roared in frustration. Its fleet began to form tighter formations, attempting to focus all their energy on one point, hoping to overwhelm the Vanguard. The humans held their positions, trusting in the ship's abilities. Then, without warning, the Vanguard shifted again. Its hull brightened, sending out pulses of energy that rippled across the battlefield like shockwaves. The smaller alien ships faltered as the energy pulses disrupted their systems. Their weapons misfired, shields wavered, and communications broke down. Chaos spread through the enemy ranks. "Sir," one of the engineers called out, "the Vanguard's energy pulses are affecting their entire formation. They're destabilizing." Rains smiled faintly. "Good. Keep pushing. Let them feel what human ingenuity looks like." As the alien fleet struggled, the Vanguard glided closer to the central ships. It did not fire in the traditional sense. Instead, it seemed to merge with the energy of the battlefield, drawing in attacks and redirecting them with deadly precision. Within moments, another alien ship exploded, then another and another. The humans watched, awestruck, as their unarmed ship dismantled the enemy with no visible weapons. Just intelligence, courage, and control over energy itself. The bridge of the Dauntless erupted in cheers, though Rains quickly silenced them. This was still dangerous. The aliens were intelligent. They would adapt again, and the humans could not afford overconfidence. "Commander," Jara said, concern replacing excitement. "There's a signal coming from the alien commander. It's a warning, I think." Rains leaned forward. "Put it on screen." A visual transmission appeared. The alien commander's glowing red eyes fixed on the humans. Its mouth moved, and the translation systems captured the words, "You are not safe. We will destroy you." The message was clear. The aliens were furious and they would not stop, but the humans had already proven that they could fight in ways the enemy could not anticipate. Rains turned back to the view screen. "Prepare for the next wave," he said calmly. "They will come again, bigger and stronger, but we will be ready. Humanity does not surrender. We adapt, we learn, and we overcome. Remember that." The crew worked quickly, reinforcing shields and recalibrating their systems. The Vanguard's glow softened slightly, but the ship remained poised, ready for whatever the aliens would throw next. Minutes passed, and the tension on the bridge remained high. Every officer knew that the next wave of attacks could be even more dangerous. Yet there was also a quiet excitement. They were witnessing something extraordinary. The human mind, applied with courage and precision, could bend the universe's rules to their advantage. Suddenly, the alien fleet appeared again, this time in greater numbers. The human fleet tensed, weapons ready, shields at maximum. The first shots were fired, but the Vanguard absorbed them effortlessly, redirecting the energy in a controlled display of power. Alien ships began to falter under the pressure, their formations breaking apart as the humans pressed forward. "Focus on strategy," Rains ordered. "Do not engage recklessly. Let the Vanguard dictate the fight. Watch, learn, and follow." The smaller human ships moved in tight coordination, covering each other, following the lead of the mysterious ship. They had learned quickly that fighting the aliens head-on with conventional weapons was futile, but with the Vanguard, they could strike with precision, control, and intelligence, targeting enemy weak points while avoiding unnecessary risk. The battle continued, but for the first time, the humans felt a sense of confidence. The aliens were dangerous, but they were not invincible. Every explosion, every ship that faltered under the Vanguard's influence, reinforced the belief that humanity's strength lay not in firepower alone, but in creativity, courage, and adaptability. Hours passed in a tense dance of energy and strategy. The alien fleet tried to regroup, tried to find weaknesses, but every attempt was met with precise countermeasures from the humans. The Vanguard led the way, its hull shimmering with controlled energy, a silent testament to what human ingenuity could accomplish. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the alien commander signaled retreat. The remaining ships disengaged, fleeing into the void, leaving the humans victorious once again. The Vanguard returned to its position at the head of the fleet, calm and poised as if nothing had happened. The human crew exhaled, relief flooding the bridge. For the first time in weeks, they felt hope, a sense that the impossible could be achieved. Rains allowed himself a small smile. They had survived, and more than survived. They had proven that humans could stand against the galaxy's most powerful foes and emerge victorious. But even as celebration began, Rains knew the battle was far from over. The aliens would adapt, learn, and strike again. Humanity's ingenuity had won today, but the war was only beginning. And somewhere deep inside the Vanguard, energy pulsed softly, waiting for the next challenge. The quiet that followed the alien retreat was deceptive. Commander Alex Rains paced the bridge of the Dauntless, eyes moving constantly between the screens. The human fleet had survived, yes, but the aliens were not defeated. They were intelligent, adaptive, and ruthless. Today's victories would make them even more dangerous tomorrow. Lieutenant Jara stood beside him, scanning the sensors. "Sir, they've disappeared beyond sensor range, but they're still reorganizing. Scans indicate significant repairs underway. They're learning from their mistakes." Rains nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the darkness of space. "Good. That means our next encounter will be the real test. Humanity has shown it can survive, but survival alone is not enough. We need to ensure we can dominate the battlefield before they learn too much." The crew of the Vanguard moved with precision, maintaining the ship's systems at peak efficiency. Engineers adjusted energy absorption fields, scientists monitored the subtle flux of power through the hull, and officers relayed information to the rest of the fleet. The ship's glow pulsed faintly, like the steady heartbeat of a sleeping predator. Suddenly, the alert system beeped sharply. Red lines traced across the main display, showing dozens of alien vessels accelerating back toward the human fleet. This time, the fleet was larger, faster, and more organized. The aliens had clearly learned something in the time they had retreated. Rains stood tall, his calm voice cutting through the rising tension. "All ships brace for contact. This is not a skirmish. They're coming to win. Maintain formation and follow the Vanguard. Let it lead. Remember, humans are not defined by weapons alone. Intelligence, courage, and adaptability. These are our weapons." The Vanguard responded instantly, gliding forward to intercept the alien fleet. The first energy blasts streaked through space, faster and more intense than before. The smaller human ships fired cautiously, while the Vanguard absorbed the enemy's attacks, redirecting them in controlled bursts. The effect was devastating. Alien ships exploded as energy backfired, but the humans maintained formation, minimizing risk. Jara watched in awe. "It's like the ship knows exactly what to do before they even attack." Rains's eyes were sharp. "It's not magic. It's human ingenuity. Every engineer, scientist, and officer involved in this design thought steps ahead. That's why it works. The alien commander, furious and desperate, barked orders that echoed through the fleet's communication network. Ships moved to flank the humans from all directions. Energy fields shimmered around their vessels, attempting to disrupt the Vanguard's absorption ability. Yet, every attempt failed. The ship adapted, subtly adjusting its energy conduits, redirecting attacks harmlessly into space or back at enemy hulls. Then, one of the smaller human vessels screamed in alarm. Its shields had begun to falter under a concentrated alien assault. Jara's voice broke the tension. "Sir, they're focusing on one ship. The shields won't hold." Rains's mind raced. A direct strike could destroy the smaller vessel instantly, and losing ships would embolden the enemy. He tapped a few commands into the console, redirecting energy flows from the Vanguard to reinforce shields across the fleet. The glowing lines along the ship's hull pulsed brightly as it redistributed energy, saving the endangered ship just in time. The aliens growled, sensing the humans' resilience. Their attacks intensified, targeting the Vanguard itself. This was a gamble. If the ship failed, the fleet would be destroyed in minutes, yet the humans stood firm. Rains issued a quiet order. "Prepare for Phase 2. Let them see that intelligence can be stronger than brute force." The Vanguard glowed brighter, its hull shimmering with controlled energy. The ship began to channel the absorbed attacks into a single, focused pulse, directing it at the heart of the alien formation. The result was spectacular. Alien vessels shattered as the energy pulse tore through their shields, bypassing defenses in ways conventional weapons could never achieve. The human fleet pressed forward, gaining ground as the aliens faltered. The smaller ships coordinated with the Vanguard, exploiting every opening. Even the most experienced human pilots could not explain why the ship seemed to anticipate the enemy's moves, yet the effect was undeniable. The alien commander's fury grew. It tried to retreat, but the humans had cut off escape routes, forcing a confrontation. The battle raged in a deadly dance of energy, strategy, and precision. The Vanguard continued to absorb, redirect, and control, dismantling enemy ships one by one. Then, the impossible happened. The aliens unleashed a massive energy wave, unlike anything the humans had faced before. It struck the Vanguard with full force, shaking the ship violently. Alarms blared, and the hull glowed under immense pressure. The crew braced themselves as systems flickered. "Sir!" Jara shouted over the alarms. "We may not hold this! The energy is too strong!" Rains clenched his jaw. "Hold it together! Focus on control! We don't just survive with weapons, we survive with intelligence!" The ship pulsed once, brighter than ever, and absorbed the massive energy wave. But instead of merely redirecting it, the Vanguard converted it, multiplying its power and channeling it into a devastating counterattack. Alien vessels in the immediate vicinity were obliterated in a cascade of explosions, leaving nothing but wreckage in their wake. The human fleet cheered silently, exhausted but exhilarated. For every strike the aliens made, the humans found a way to turn it into an advantage. This was not brute force. This was strategy. This was the essence of humanity itself. The alien commander, enraged and cornered, attempted a last desperate maneuver. Its flagship fired a concentrated beam of energy aimed directly at the Vanguard. The beam glowed intensely, threatening to overwhelm the ship. The human crew tensed, watching as the pulse struck the hull. Rains made a decision. "Divert all power to the outer conduits. Channel the beam into the central pulse. Let it guide us." The Vanguard responded instantly. The massive beam struck the hull and vanished, absorbed and magnified by the ship. The energy surged back, exploding outward and tearing through the alien flagship. The explosion was blinding, shaking the fleet, leaving fragments drifting silently in the void. Silence followed, broken only by the soft hum of the Vanguard systems. The remaining alien vessels, witnessing the destruction of their flagship and the failure of their most powerful weapon, retreated. They disappeared into the darkness, leaving the human fleet victorious once again. The human crew erupted in cheers, relief washing over them. Engineers and officers rushed to check systems, ensuring no damage had been sustained, while Rains allowed himself a rare smile. The Vanguard had survived the impossible, not with weapons or brute strength, but with intelligence, coordination, and control over forces the enemy could not comprehend. Jara approached, still catching her breath. "Sir, it's incredible. They can't fight against this. The Vanguard, it's unstoppable." Rains shook his head, calm and thoughtful. "It's not unstoppable. Nothing is. But humanity is adaptable. We don't rely solely on weapons. We rely on thinking, on courage, and on the will to survive. That's what makes us dangerous." The fleet began repairs and reorganizing, knowing the aliens would return. Yet for the first time, there was confidence. Humans had survived and won against impossible odds, proving that even a technologically superior enemy could be overcome by strategy and ingenuity. Rains gazed out at the stars, knowing the battle was far from over. The aliens would return, stronger, smarter, and more dangerous. But humanity had shown its true strength, not just weapons, but minds capable of turning the impossible into reality. And deep within the Vanguard, energy pulsed steadily, calm and controlled, ready for whatever challenge came next. The human fleet would follow it, trusting in its guidance, and humanity would continue to prove that intelligence, courage, and ingenuity were more powerful than any cannon or missile. The stars glimmered faintly against the black canvas of space as the human fleet repaired and regrouped after the brutal engagement. Commander Alex Rains stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, his hands folded behind his back, eyes scanning the displays. The Vanguard floated at the forefront, calm and almost serene, its hull pulsing faintly as though it were breathing. For the crew, it was more than a ship. It was a symbol of what humans could achieve when ingenuity, courage, and discipline converged. Lieutenant Jara moved beside him, her face lit with a mix of relief and determination. "Sir, the aliens are retreating beyond sensor range again, but they're likely regrouping for a larger attack." Rains nodded slowly. "I expected nothing less. The aliens will not give up so easily. They will learn, adapt, and return stronger. We must do the same. Humanity doesn't just survive. We prepare, we improve, and we overcome." The fleet was quiet now, but the tension lingered. Every human on board knew the war was far from over. Yet hope had been restored. The Vanguard had shown them what was possible, demonstrating that victory was not just about firepower, but about thinking faster, planning better, and never giving in to fear. From the Vanguard, soft pulses of energy radiated outward, subtly stabilizing the fleet's shields and systems. The ship seemed alive in a way the crew could almost feel, like a quiet guardian watching over them. Rains moved closer to the helm, studying the ship's systems. There was still so much they didn't understand. So much potential waiting to be unlocked. A message arrived from Earth Command, crisp and urgent. "Commander Rains, your actions have been reported across the fleet. The aliens have underestimated humanity, and your leadership has set a precedent. Continue engagement cautiously. Do not overextend. Await further instructions." Rains read the message, then turned to his crew. "Humanity is being noticed. Our ingenuity has shown the galaxy that we are not prey to be hunted. But this is just the beginning. We must remain vigilant. We must continue to innovate." The crew worked tirelessly, repairing smaller ships, recalibrating shields, and analyzing alien strategies. Every officer knew that the aliens would return, and that their next encounter would be more challenging. But for the first time, there was confidence. An unspoken understanding that humans were not merely surviving, they were proving that they could dominate in ways the enemy could not predict. Hours later, the alien fleet reappeared on the sensors. This time, it was larger and more coordinated, a clear sign they had adapted. The humans braced themselves. The tension on the bridge was almost tangible. Rains stood at the helm, calm and focused. All ships formed defensive and offensive positions simultaneously. Let the vanguard lead our engagement. Observe, adapt, and strike with precision. Humans are not merely fighters. We are thinkers, innovators, and survivors. The aliens struck first, unleashing a barrage of energy that swept through space like a storm. The smaller human vessels maneuvered with care, dodging attacks and responding strategically. The vanguard absorbed the brunt of the assault, redirecting energy in precise bursts that tore into the alien formations. The battle intensified. Alien cruisers attempted to flank and isolate the human fleet, but the humans anticipated their moves. Every strike was countered, every attempt at strategy countered by sharper thinking. The humans were no longer reacting. They were dictating the flow of battle. From the bridge of the Dauntless, Rains observed the enemy faltering. Their flagship was under constant pressure, smaller ships destroyed or forced to retreat. The humans moved with efficiency, exploiting every weakness while minimizing risk. It was a dance of intelligence and courage, the kind only humans could execute. Jara leaned over his shoulder, her voice tight with excitement. "Sir, they're being completely outmaneuvered. The Vanguard, it's more than a ship. It's like it knows what the aliens will do before they do it." Rains allowed himself a small smile. It's not magic. It's human ingenuity. Every calculation, every design, every decision contributes to this. That is the real weapon. Despite their overwhelming advantage, Rains did not allow complacency. The aliens were clever and adaptable, and he knew they would attempt something desperate. His mind raced through possibilities, predicting moves, preparing contingencies. This was the human way, not just to fight, but to think, innovate, and survive. The alien commander, desperate and furious, attempted a bold maneuver. Its flagship fired a concentrated energy beam directly at the Vanguard. The pulse struck the ship's hull, sending vibrations through every system. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the crew braced for impact. "Divert all available power to outer conduits," Rains ordered. "Absorb and redirect. Let intelligence guide us." The Vanguard pulsed brightly, absorbing the immense energy and channeling it back into the alien formation. The flagship exploded in a blinding flash, followed by the destruction of several smaller ships caught in the shockwave. The remaining alien vessels panicked, breaking formation and retreating once more. The human fleet cheered silently, exhausted but victorious. They had done the impossible. They had faced a technologically superior enemy and emerged unbroken, not by firepower alone, but by ingenuity, courage, and unity. Rains turned to his crew. "Today, we've shown the galaxy what humans can achieve. We've shown that strength lies not in weapons alone, but in minds willing to think, adapt, and overcome." The crew looked at the Vanguard, still glowing softly in the void. It had led them to victory without firing a single conventional weapon. Its design, intelligence, and connection to its crew had become the symbol of human potential. For a moment, silence fell on the bridge. Each officer reflected on the battle, the dangers they had faced, and the victories they had earned. Humans had survived the impossible, and in doing so had shown the aliens and themselves that courage and ingenuity were more powerful than brute force. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, a reminder of the challenges yet to come. The aliens would return, stronger and smarter. But humanity had proven that it could meet any challenge with intelligence, adaptability, and determination. Rains took a deep breath. Prepare for course adjustments. We return to patrol and readiness. The galaxy will remember what humans are capable of, and we must continue to be ready. The crew moved efficiently, repairing ships, reinforcing shields, and analyzing enemy strategies. The Vanguard pulsed faintly, as though acknowledging their work, a silent guardian guiding the human fleet forward. As night fell across distant worlds and the stars shimmered coldly, Rains reflected on the events. Humanity had faced a fleet that should have overwhelmed them, yet they had survived and triumphed. The lesson was clear: no matter the odds, humans could overcome through intelligence, courage, and determination. And deep within the heart of the Vanguard, energy pulsed steadily, ready for the next challenge. Humanity had proven itself, not just as survivors, but as a force that could stand against the galaxy and shape its destiny. The fleet moved forward, calm but vigilant, carrying the knowledge that they had done the impossible. The humans were no longer just a fleet. They were a symbol of ingenuity, courage, and the unyielding spirit that would define their place in the stars. The Vanguard led the way, silent and glowing, a reminder to the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. And as they traveled onward, every officer, pilot, and crew member knew one undeniable truth. Humans were not just weapons of war. They were thinkers, innovators, and survivors, capable of bending the impossible to their will. The galaxy would never forget the day a single unarmed ship destroyed cruisers, outsmarted a fleet, and showed the universe what humanity could achieve. And the humans, led by the Vanguard, would continue to rise, ready for whatever challenges awaited them among the stars. Victory was theirs, but the journey had only begun. The story of human courage, ingenuity, and adaptability would continue, echoing across the galaxy as a lesson. Underestimate humans at your own peril.